Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Longing, where today we are going to be continuing to read the Iliad by Homer. So, let's get going. To whom the son of Jove that god implore, and be what great Achilles was before. From heavenly Venus thou derivest thy strain, and he but from a sister of the main, an aged sea-god father of his line, but Jove himself the sacred source of thine. Then lift thy weapon for a noble blow, nor fear the vaunting of a mortal foe. This said, and spirit breathed into his breast, through the thick troops the emboldened hero pressed. His venturous act the white-armed queen surveyed, and thus assembling all the powers she said, Behold an action, gods, that claims your care. Lo, great Cneus rushing to the war. Against Pelides he directs his course, Phoebus impels, and Phoebus gives him force. Restrain his bold career at least to attend. Our favoured hero let some power descend. To guard his life and add to his renown, we the great armament of heaven came down. Hereafter let him fall as fate's design, that spun so short his life's illustrious line. 262. But lest some adverse god now cross his way, give him to know what powers assist this day. For how shall mortals stand the dire alarms, when heaven's refulgent host appear in arms? Thus she and thus the god whose force can make the solid globe's eternal basis shake. Against the might of man so feeble known, why should celestial powers exert their own? Suffice from yonder mount to view the scene, and leave to war the fates of mortal men. But if the armipotent or god of light obstruct Achilles or commence the fight, thence on the gods of Troy we swift descend, full soon I doubt not shall the conflict end, and these in ruin and confusion hurled, yield to our conquering arms the lower world. Thus having said, the tyrant of the sea, Coerulean Neptune rose and led the way. Advanced upon the field there stood a mound, of earth congested, walled and trenched around. In elder times to guard Alcides made, the work of Trojans with Minerva's aid. What time a vengeful monster of the main swept the wide shore and drove him to the plain. Here Neptune and the gods of Greece repair, with clouds encompassed and a veil of air. The adverse powers around Apollo laid, crown the fair hills that silver Simois shade. In circle close each heavenly party sat, intent to form the future scheme of fate, but mix not yet in fight, though Jove on high gives the loud signal, and the heavens reply. Meanwhile the rushing armies hide the ground, the trampled centre yields a hollow sound. Steeds cased in mail and chiefs in armour bright, the gleaming champaign glows with brazen light. Amid both hosts a dreadful space appear, there great Achilles, bold Cneus here. With towering strides Aeneas first advanced, the nodding plumage on his helmet danced. Spread o'er his breast the fencing shield he bore, and so he moved, his javelin flamed before. Not so Pelides, furious to engage, he rushed impetuous, such the lion's rage, who viewing first his foes with scornful eyes, though all in arms the peopled city rise, stalks careless on with unregarding pride, till at the length by some brave youth defied. To his bold spear the savage turns alone, he murmurs fury with a hollow groan. He grins, he foams, he rolls his eyes around, lashed by his tail his heaving sides resound. He calls up all his rage, he grinds his teeth, resolved on vengeance or resolved on death. So fierce Achilles on Cneus flies, so stands Cneus and his force defies. Ere yet the stern encounter joined, begun, the steed of Thetis thus to Venus' son. Why comes Cneus through the ranks so far? Seeks he to meet Achilles' arm in war, in hope the realms of Priam to enjoy, and prove his merits to the throne of Troy? Grant that beneath thy lance Achilles dies, the partial monarch may refuse the prize. Sons he has many, those thy pride may quell, and 'tis his fault to love those sons too well. Or in reward of thy victorious hand has Troy proposed some spacious tract of land, an ample forest or a far domain, of hills for vines and arable for grain. Even this perhaps will hardly prove thy lot, but can Achilles be so soon forgot? Once, as I think, you saw this brandished spear, and then the great Cneus seemed to fear. With hearty haste from Ida's mount he fled, nor till he reached Lyrnessus turned his head. Her lofty walls not long our progress stayed, those palaced Jove, and we in ruins laid. In Grecian chains her captive race were cast. 'Tis true the great Aeneas fled too fast. Defrauded of my conquest once before, what then I lost, the gods this day restore. Go while thou mayst avoid the threatened fate. Fools stay to feel it, and are wise too late. To this Anchises' son such words employ, to one that fears thee, some unwarlike boy. Such we disdain, the best may be defied, with mean reproaches and unmanly pride. Unworthy the high race from which we came, proclaimed so loudly by the voice of fame. Each from illustrious fathers draws his line, each goddess born, half human, half divine. Thetis' this day, or Venus' offspring, dies, and tears that shall trickle from celestial eyes. For when two heroes thus derived contend, 'tis not in words the glorious strife can end. If yet thou further seek to learn my birth, a tale resounded through the spacious earth. Here now the glorious origin we prove, from ancient Dardanus, the first from Jove. Dardania's walls he raised for Ilion then, the city since of many languaged men. Was not the natives were content to till the shady foot of Ida's fountful hill. 264. From Dardanus great Erychthonius springs, the richest once of Asia's wealthy kings. 3,000 mares his spacious pastures bred, 3,000 foals beside their mothers fed. Boreas, enamoured of the sprightly train, concealed his godhead in a flowing mane. With voice dissembled to his loves he neighed, and coursed the dappled beauties o'er the mead. Hence sprung 12 others of unrivalled kind, swift as their mother mares and father wind. These lightly skimming when they swept the plain, nor plied the grass, nor bent the tender grain. And when along the level seas they flew, 265, scarce on the surface curled the briny dew. Such Erychthonius was, from him there came the sacred Tros, of whom the Trojan name. 3 sons renowned adorned his nuptial bed, Ilus, Assaracus, and Ganymed. The matchless Ganymed, divinely fair, whom heaven enamoured snatched to upper air, to bear the cup of Jove, ethereal guest, the grace and glory of the ambrosial feast. The 2 remaining sons the line divide. From first rose Laomedon from Ilus' side. From him to Tithonus, now in cares grown old, and Priam blessed with Hector brave and bold. Clytius and Lampus, ever honoured pair, and Hicetaon, thunderbolt of war. From great Assaracus sprang Capys, he begat Anchises, and Anchises me. Such is our race, 'tis fortune gives us birth, but Jove alone endures the soul with worth. He, source of power and might with boundless sway, all human courage gives or takes away. Long in the field of words we may contend, reproach is infinite and knows no end. Armed or with truth or falsehood, right or wrong, so voluble a weapon is the tongue. Wounded we wound, and neither side can fail, for every man has equal strength to rail. Woman alone, when in the streets they jar, perhaps excel us in this wordy war. Like us they stand encompassed with the crowd, and vent their anger impotent and loud. Cease then our business in the field of fight, is not to question, but to prove our might. To all those insults thou hast offered here, receive this answer, 'tis my flying spear. And with that we come to the end of the episode. So I'll say the usual, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon or night. No matter what time of day it is, I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.